welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Threads of Fate, and welcome back to my least favorite part of the game.
Back to Dreamland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you remember with when we were visiting Fancy Mel, you know, she's not home. So let's fill this game out by pointless mini games. And oh god, how I hated those fucking mini games.
Ah. All right. The heck? Oh god damn it! The door makes a weird sound when I knock. What the hell?
Just keep beating the door. She'll answer eventually.
No!
Yeah, no, we're not playing your fucking games, okay? No, fuck you. Yeah, it's like, fuck your balls,
Okay,
fuck your swings, fuck your trumpets. It's like, fuck all that noise.
Thank you, Dr. Ivo Robotnik.
No, that's not a booger. There's an everything on your face. I'm not Freaky Mel, I'm Fancy Mel.
No
Yeah,
shit.
it's like, yeah, it's like, frilly kawaii desune.
You know what my new office needs? A beanbag chair.
Go for it.
Because I know it's a mushroom she's sitting on, but it looks like she's sitting on a beanbag chair.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, it's like, at the time of this recording, it's like, VJ, you haven't told the story about how you got your new office.
I guess so.
It's like, yeah, I think you should tell it, because it's fucking funny.
Yeah, my mom's kind of crazy. So, you know, before the, you know, so yeah, I kind of have my new my own office now because, I guess my own workspace office kind of area. Because normally before this, I would spend a lot of time in my own bedroom because that was where my desk was and where everything was, where I would work on my animations and let's plays and such. So my mom is crazy, like OCD actually crazy. And randomly this past Sunday, she comes storming in, screaming at me, sitting here like, "You're always in your bedroom. You never come out and socialize. You don't do anything. Like, your room is a pigsty and a mess," even though it really isn't. It just wasn't her standard of cleaning. I kept it clean. It just wasn't her standards of clean because she's crazy. Eventually she's just sitting here like, you know what? I'm gonna take all this shit out of your room and we're gonna move it to the game room that nobody uses and we're gonna turn that into your office whether you like it or not. It's like, all right.
Oh god, an office? No! Why? That's the worst fucking thing. Oh wait.
Yeah, so now I have my own office.
Yeah, and the office came with furniture. Like, it came with chairs and couches. So
and
it's
a big ass TV
with surround sound. So
so you wanted him out of the bedroom. Now he's never gonna leave the office.
Yeah, you know what? This is punishment. You know what? This is what I call white privilege at its best. It's like, Christ.
Oh my god.
And I didn't have a choice in the matter, so okay.
It's like, oh, alright. No, give it time. Next you know, you'll get worn out. Okay, you know what? You never get out of your office. You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take all of this crap and we're gonna rent out your own goddamn studio, whether you like it or not.
So yeah, we'll get you your own apartment.
Oh man.
Hey, look, it's Uganda Knuckles.
Do you know the way? Oh god. BJ Wong. God.
See, the only reason why I like bringing up that meme specifically is because I want to support Gregzilla. So.
Yes, that is true.
Because the more that meme gets spread around, the more Gregzilla gets popular. So there you go. He's an animator, and he deserves popularity. Also, fucking dropkick.
2.
Smokey, you alright? He says with his fucking mouth caved inside out. Just signed your death warrant. Oh god, you know what? Actually, that fucking reminds me. So I got another story for you guys that happened actually yesterday at my courthouse, during my jury service.
Okay.
So, like, for those of you who don't know, I'm currently on a grand jury. So that means I go to a court, twice a week to kind of help decide, help a group of people decide on what cases should go to court and not. I can't specifically talk about the cases that are in court. That's because I'm under oath. But I will talk about something funny that happened during one of the cases. Now, it was a really sad and actually kind of disturbing case. It was a murder case. So it was really sad, actually, and pretty gruesome, actually, to look at. I can't, and that's about all I can say. What I will say, though, something a little humorous that happened during when we were presented that case. We were presented the 911 call that was made during that case. And it was really heart-wrenching to listen to. But yeah. One thing I noticed when we were listening to this call is that one of the other jurors, he was sitting there kind of with his hand on his forehead, shaking his head, like almost cringing. And it wasn't one of those sad cringes. It was more like oh my god, why kind of cringes. So afterwards, we asked him, is something wrong there? As it turns out, that juror is actually the manager of the people who answers the 911 calls in my county. And the person that was called for the 911 call, the person that answered the 911, she reports to him. So he knew who that was on the other line. And he was sitting there the whole time cringing because apparently she did a really bad job of answering that 911 call.
Oh my god.
So she was like repeating questions. She was making, she was being very slow considering the circumstance. There was one point where she straight up said, "Can you administer CPR?" Again, this was a murder case. Person was already dead. So
I think by law they technically have to ask that, even if it's very clear. Because they got to cover all their bases. Like, I think that is a question they're supposed to ask. Not according to the juror, because he said typically yeah, but if it's very clear that if the person on the other line makes it clear that they're dead, then you really shouldn't be asked. You really shouldn't be doing that. So that's why I'm actually really surprised that he even got, picked in and everything. Because I know usually when they pick a jury, be it grand jury or even, just not grand jury, they don't want anybody, who's like got any connections with anything whatsoever. So it's like you would think like, okay, pumpkin. It's like, yeah, you would think that like, a guy who is like the manager of like somebody with a 911 call that's being submitted in with evidence, it's like, wouldn't that automatically knock you out because that technically
not in this case, if only because he manages the 911 calls doesn't necessarily mean that he has anything to do with the actual cases that are called in. So,
okay.
And he actually said that he was gonna next time he sees her, he's actually gonna have a quick little follow-up meeting with her. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, if you're gonna do a bad job at work, make sure your work isn't being recorded, because it would suck if randomly one day your boss just hears it out of nowhere. So I thought that was kind of humorous.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, that's like whenever you call customer service for anything, one of the things you'll always hear is like, this call may be monitored for like, it may be recorded for like, training purposes, record keeping and all that other shit. So, it's like, I know, granted, yeah, that's for customer service, but I think, you know, yeah, the same would also apply to, like, you know, a dire situation like a 911 call.
Oh, well, I don't know. It's like... like, I don't know the ins and outs of... I guess, what would you call that position? Like, the people that answer the 911 calls. Like, what
what is it? Aren't they the dispatchers?
Dispatchers? I guess. I'm not really sure. I'll have to ask. I'll have to ask him when I see him on Thursday.
Right, or if someone in the audience happens to know, you know.
Well, I mean, more than likely, I'm gonna probably, unless I forget, which is a high possibility, I'm probably gonna ask him myself, you know, before this video ever comes out. So.
Yeah.
Also, Mint is dead. So the cutscene that we kind of just talked over before. So Mint is now effectively isn't even regarded in royal standings anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Like, so I mean, when she lost her right to the throne, she pretty much lost everything. And that's where, like, you know, Mel was saying, like, you know, oh, by the way, Mint, you know, I heard this rumor that, you know, this kingdom, like, their eldest princess just disappeared, and, you know, no one's seen her for 2 years, no one's asked about her, and, you know, nobody misses her or anything. You hear about that? So, I mean, yeah, so, you know, just, you know, I get the whole idea is supposed to be that, you know, because Mel is a magician and everything, she's all-knowing, so she would know that kind of stuff, and that's why she's asking, you know, so the reason you're going after the relic is you want to get, you know, your throne back, and that's where Mint's like, well, yeah, but I'm not stopping there, I'm going to take over the world. So, you know, pretty much, you know, kind of like reinforcing, you know, Mint's role in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, how old is Mint?
Never said. Yeah, there's no ages given or anything, so... I would like to say she's got to be at least a teenager, like maybe mid to late teens, I would think.
Okay, because I kind of have to wonder about. Yeah, she was a big spoiled brat, you know, it's like it, but like I kind of have to wonder, did that really? I mean, okay, you know, her being, you know, losing her right to rule the kingdom is one thing, because she had a younger sister that is just so much more fitted for it. But the idea of her losing her position of royalty at all, that seems a little much to me. If only because it's like, I have to wonder, when it comes to children that are extremely spoiled, like, where would you really put the fault for them? Like, how much fault do you think goes to the spoiled kid, and then how much fault do you think lies to the parents?
I would say a bulk of it goes to the parents, but,
yeah,
you know,
that's what I would say.
Yeah, but again, you know, that's something that's never really, like, expanded on or anything. I mean, that's like, actually, okay, so recently this show on FX, they just finished airing season 2 of American crime drama. So, you know, season 1 was The People versus O.J. Simpson. Great freaking show. I believe it's on Netflix right now. You know, if you have the opportunity to see it, by all means, check it out. It is a blast to watch.
Well,
they just aired season 2, and it was called The Assassination of Gianni Versace. And season 2 was very meh by comparison. But one of the big things that, you know, I don't even know why it's called The Assassination of Gianni Versace when Versace's not even, he's barely in the fucking thing to begin with. Like, you know, the bulk of the season was all about, you know, the murderer. And it's like, in a way I get it, because no one really understands why Andrew Cunanan snapped and, you know, went on this murder spree. But at least with what the show was trying to present, the idea they were trying to present was the fact, and I actually had to look this up to see how much of it was factually true. And yeah, Andrew Cunanan was really, really spoiled, you know, growing up and everything, because he showed much promise, like, intellectually, like, you know, a bright young kid. You know, it's like, you know, bright young kid, he's gonna go far. So what happens? His parents pretty much spoil the living shit out of this kid, which, you know, I would assume pretty much led to him growing up, like, in a life of entitlement and privilege and everything, you know, simply because he got so spoiled and was constantly told, you're so special and, you know, you're so smart, you can get anything you want. And then, you know, oh shit, you know, life happens and it's like, oh, yeah, it's not exactly going out the way, you know, everyone's telling you. And all this shit happens, and at least according to the show, all these issues kind of helped compile into making him this mass murderer. So that's where it's like, again, it's like, you know, to go back to your question, it's like, okay, in a situation like that, it's like, when everybody's asking why, you know, what happened, why did it, how could it have ended up this way? It's like, yeah, does the fault lie on, you know, was he always just this fucking crazy? Or could you blame, like, you know, the parents that, you know, spoiled him and put him in through, like, you know, the top schools and, you know, everybody treating him like a fucking prince? Like, you know, where's the blame? Like,
yeah.
What caused this guy to snap?
It's like, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's a huge difference between, you know, someone being told not to do something, and then, yeah, someone being told not to do something wrong, but them doing it anyway, and then for someone to be told that something wrong is right, and then doing it because they were told it was right. Like, I just feel like there's a huge difference in that kind of circumstance. So when you spoil someone to think and put them into a mindset put them into a specific mindset where they become really spoiled rotten, like, that's what they grew up knowing, and that's just how, and that's where their mind became and went. They don't know anything else. So it's like, how much fault really can go to them?
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like in this case, Rue kind of got screwed. Or not Rue. Fuck Rue. I feel like Mint kind of got screwed. Like, she was put into a situation there where, like, I guess is it ever really explained why she's so spoiled rotten? Like, was it because of her parents, or it's because of the fact that she's royalty?
I would say it's never explained, but I would say it's probably because she's royalty, because she's the first child, and, you know, yeah, your first kid's usually the heir to the throne, so of course they're gonna get the special privileges. And it's like, I think that's more or less just what it is. It's just, you know, yep, that's just how it ended up being. Is, again, never really truly explained, but I would say it is because, you know, because she was the firstborn and because she's the heir, naturally she's gonna get special attention, and she just took advantage of it.
Yeah, like, I can understand a little more if, like, maybe, like, after a point they tried, you know, being a little more reasonable, like, stop spoiling her, but she continued acting spoiled rotten, or, like, maybe they tried, because we see Maya, who is clearly a huge opposite to Mint, and despite being raised in the same way, I imagine, anyway. So something in terms of raising was clearly done different between the two of them. And
right. Well, that's like at the very beginning of the game. You know, Maya said, like, you know, you neglect your training. You spend lavishly. You only eat what you like. So it's not even like, you know, the chef can make whatever you want and be grateful for it. No, you're being like so picky and everything about it. So it's like, again, that's just one of those things where it's like, you know, yeah, at what point, you know, yeah, where did it all go wrong? It's never really explained. And that's where it's like, even like Mint said, like, at the beginning, you know, she's like, hey, when it's time for me to act right, I'll act right. And, you know, Maya's like, I can't believe you just said that.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess this is it's a complicated situation. Like, we'd have to learn a little bit more about Mint's upbringing, really, to kind of make a final judgment on that.
Right, which sadly we do not get in this game. So that's pretty much up for interpretation now.
I guess in some cases it's one of those things where it's like the only way to truly, I guess it is kind of one of those cases where the only, because it's clear that Mint, you know, spoiled as she is and was, like, she clearly did not appreciate anything she gets, and as anyone will tell you, no one will truly appreciate what they have until it's gone.
Right.
So this probably was a case where, like, this was probably the only way to get through to Mint, or at least they probably thought so. But then they realized, but Mint's kind of taking it in the opposite effect.
Yeah, well, because it's like, you know, I was like, yeah, she lost her right to the throne and everything, but it was Mint's idea to run away from home. It was her idea to go relic hunting. Like, this was all her initiative.
Yeah.
You know, the council didn't say, you know, "Be gone, you are banished from the kingdom." You know, no, they didn't do that. They just said, yeah, you're not going to be the heir anymore. It's going to be Maya. And this is just Mint throwing a fucking temper tantrum.
Yep. Because they probably did this to try to teach her a lesson, but instead of teaching her a lesson,
it fucking backfired.
Yeah.
And now
I noticed
domination.
I notice that happens a lot with parenting these days. Like, not even these days. Even in the past. Like, generally, parents are very experimental with their kids, I find. And, like, generally, they'll try to do things that end up always backfiring.
Well, yeah, I mean, because there's no real handy, like, guidebook or anything. There's no one strict way to raise your kids, because every kid's different. So, I mean, it's like, you know, the way one kid is raised is not going to be how another is raised, even if they get the same results. So, I mean, it's like, you know, that's just how it works.
I remember another day in court where we had a case. It was an injury to a child case, but it was a case. It was a case where like, we ended up. Well, I can't go too much into detail about it. Pretty much, it was an adult disciplining a child, effectively.
Oh, and it's like, okay, where does it go from discipline and go into abuse?
Yeah, and that was probably one of the biggest debates between all of us in the grand jury. Me personally, I do not condone the idea of ever striking a child, because I've seen cases where I've seen too much, like, statistics, and even cases where if a child is raised thinking that hitting, like that being hit is a suitable punishment for when they're doing something incorrect, that's how they'll go through life. Like, generally, a lot of these people that I see who are being charged with assaults and domestic violences were hit as child. You know, were generally hit as children. So they grew up thinking. So now they grow up with this violent mentality that hitting is the only way they're going to get their point across.
Right. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's a very deadly cycle and everything. So
yeah.
It's where it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, yeah, it's like, yeah, where is that fine line? You know, where does it go from discipline and into abuse? I mean, there's some instances where, I mean, it's fucking black and white. There's no question that it's abuse. But
Yeah.
then it's like, you know, but then you get these cases where it's like, you know, a kid is acting up or something, and a parent, you know, maybe the parent doesn't even have to, like, you know, hit the kid. The parent could just yell at the kid. And people will say, oh, you're such a horrible parent because you're screaming at your child. And it's like,
Well, it's obviously different.
I know, but that's like, you know, I think we've also kind of started to hit that point now where it's like, you know, now you get, like, you know, these kids that are not being disciplined at all because, you know, for whatever reason, like, you know, parents fear the judgment, and that's especially true on fucking social media, I can tell you that. But
Yelling
it's
at a kid is one thing. Like, yeah, sure, it can, because, like, and this is actually, I'm sorry. Oh, something stuck in my throat there. Oh, hey, it's Rod. Hey, Rod. Where's that hammer?
Yeah, it's BJ Spirit Animal here. So, So yeah, I guess before we continue into this discussion, so Mint exclusive. So if you recall in Rue's playthrough, he goes to the Ghost Temple, and that's where he finds the gauntlets and the Solarets. Mint is going after the earrings that are in Gomble Forest. But yeah, Gomble Forest is so far away that the only way you can get there relatively quickly, you have to go to Rod. So yeah, again, you know, Rod, he only showed up one time in Rue's story. Rod shows up in more times in Mint's. So, you know, just like last time, you know, he'll help us he'll only help us if we fight him. And if you win, great, he will take you. Should you lose, it doesn't really matter if you win or lose, because even if you lose, Klaus's wife will show up and she'll be like, what are you doing? Like, are you really not going to take her to Gomble Forest? And Rod is like, oh, no, of course, madam, I will take her to Gomble Forest.
I just felt like kicking the crap out of her first.
Right.
Teaching her some life lessons. But no. Anyway,
anyway, back to the serious discussion about abuse while Mint is taking abuse.
Mint, why are you hitting my puppy?
How dare you? But no,
who do you think you are, Dio?
Like people being called a bad parent, you know, it's one thing for people to call you a bad parent based on the opinions and judgment of other people. It's another thing to be a bad parent based on the eyes of the law, I think. And I know the law is subjective, but it's like, and a prosecutor even properly brought this up at one point, where he did say that when it comes to assault and abuse, there is a fine line between it where it becomes assault, where if somebody hits you and then you hit them back, that's not really assault. That's just, you know, that's just more violent. That's more so just violence.
Now it becomes a fight. Yeah,
because that's not really a felony or anything as far as I'm aware, because it's an equal reaction of force that the prosecutor explained to me. Like if someone deals a certain amount of force to you, and then you return that same exact amount of force, then that's just a fight. There's nothing, you know, the cops can split it up, but there's nothing, but depending on the severity of the fight will depend on the punishment of both parties. Whether or not they're just giving a slap on the wrist or whatever. However, if someone punches you in the face, and then the other guy pulls out a gun and shoots you, that's a different story.
Right. Or it's so going back to, you know, with the kids and everything. There's a huge difference between, you know, giving a kid a little bop on the butt because, you know, they're crying or something like in public, and it's like, hey, bop, knock that off. There's a big difference between a bop on the butt and then like smacking the kid so goddamn hard you're gonna leave a handprint. Yeah, it's
because kids will never be able to get to assert a certain amount of force that would require you to give that same force back. And even as a parent, why would you? So it's like, I don't know. It's such a weird area. I just don't agree with the idea of, because here's the thing. Humans as a whole are so influenced by fear that, you see that at an early age. Children are influenced by fear. So yeah, there are a lot of kids that are afraid of the idea of being hit. But the moment you do start hitting them, they'll realize that, oh wait, that shit's just temporary. That pain's only temporary. So then whatever. But it's like, I guess that also does depend on the kid. Some kids kind of just grow an immunity to being hit and then start hitting others as a result. Some kids will, grow so terrified of being hit that they become the perfect little angels, but then they're pretty much scarred for life after that.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's like you said earlier too, Danny. Everyone's different.
Right.
But in the end, don't be hitting your kids.
How the fuck did we go into this dark territory and we're watching like a little cartoon princess kicking the shit out of a frog or some shit? Like how the fuck did we go from that to this?
Because Mint's a spoiled brat, and we brought up where's the fine line in discipline for kids like her? Anyway,
join us next time as Mint will basically go on a genocidal rampage in the Gomble Forest.
Hey.